Hello, welcome back to Transfer News Live. I'm Statman Dave and this is the Scout Report, the best place on the internet for your analysis on the biggest transfers. Today we're going to be diving into one of the biggest debates of the summer. Which striker should Arsenal sign? Alexander Isak seems perfect but far too expensive. Another option could be Ollie Watkins. But the two strikers that Arsenal keep going back to is Viktor Gyokeres and Benjamin Sesko. So today we're going to dive into the analysis, the statistics, and work out which player is better suited to Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. Of course, if you're new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But anyway, let's get this party started. So let's start with the tactics. Arsenal will continue with their 4-3-3 structure next season, playing with a lone striker. Of course, over the last 18 months, that has been Kai Havertz, and for me, he's done a really good job. But with Arsenal needing more goals to win the Premier League and Champions League, Havertz could be dropped into a deeper midfield position with a new number 9 coming in. This would allow Arsenal to continue with their free 8, but have a truly elite number 9. So the two players we're going to be talking about today, Viktor Gyokeres and Benjamin Sesko. Starting with Viktor Gyokeres, a very complete forward similar to Benjamin Sesko. We could describe Viktor Gyokeres as a power forward. That's a player who's got the stature of a target man, a player that could take down long balls and then make something happen in the final third. But also very, very quick, who consistently makes runs in behind the defence and is very powerful when it comes to finishing. That's quite similar to Benjamin Sesko, and I think that's why Arsenal are looking at the two forwards. Benjamin Sesko is younger, he's faster, he's also a little bit better in the air, but has a similar build. He's a target man, he's got a lot of pace, and can really cause the opposition trouble with his movement in behind the defence. And of course, he finishes with real power. The two players would be perfect for Arteta's system and style. They also, in terms of the other thing that you want from a centre forward under Arteta, is you want a player that's going to be super aggressive when it comes to pressure. They've got to lead that press. This is why Kai Havertz has been super effective. But the one area that Havertz has not got, that is an overperforming expected goals numbers, and that is what both Sesko and Viktor Gyokeres have. They are very efficient shooters. So if both players suit it from a tactical perspective and a physical perspective, where's the differences? Which one would truly be better under Arteta? So we're going to take a look at that right now. Under Arteta, Arsenal play some of the best football in the Premier League. Their ability to move the opposition round before progressing the play and working into attacking area sometimes is fantastic. They can be slow in certain areas, but I think here's where a number 9 will help in these situations. The big thing that Arsenal's number 9 needs to do is they need to be able to attack the box well from different situations. When looking at chance creation, that's got to be matched up with how that striker scores goals. It's a really important thing. For example, you don't want to be lumping deep crosses to a 5'9" centre forward that's really quick. You want to find them with cutbacks or low crosses into the box. So the striker that Arsenal need to sign needs to match their method of chance creation. So of course we know they progress the play really well into the final third, but what do they do in that zone? So I think we see a number of things. Number 1, we see a lot of combination play with these wide triangles. That, for example, on the right-hand side is Ødegaard, Saka and Jurrien Timber. Of course, we can also throw the likes of Ben White into this situation because he's a little bit more offensive than Timber. Timber, you could say, is the more orthodox defender, really good defensively 1v1, whereas Ben White is more on that chance creation. In terms of the method of chance creation, we see a number of things. Number 1, we see really individualistic play from the wide players to either go on the outside or come on the inside to create shooting opportunities for themselves. Or alternatively, we see them play those underlapping passes to the free 8s in behind the defence. Or finally, we see a lot of overlapping play from the fullbacks, especially when Ben White plays, getting around Saka and then finding kind of normal crosses into the penalty area. That stronger foot on the outside, whipped in, good delivery. But in terms of last season, what we saw mainly was inverted crosses. That, of course, is either the 8s or the wingers kind of checking back on their inside, driving into the centre of the pitch and then crossing the ball to the back post. And when we look at the statistics, Chance creation for Arsenal, there is a lot of crosses. They came third in the Premier League last season in terms of teams that put crosses into the box. That, of course, is their style of play, but it's also how they dominate possession and they have the opportunity to cross the ball a lot. So the number 9 that Arsenal need to sign need to be good from these types of situations. But let's go a little bit further. Let's have a look at these situations we're talking about. So our first example comes against Leicester City, the first of Mikel Moreno's brace. A simple goal, but Nwaneri chopping inside to his stronger right foot and then hanging the ball up to the back post. This is kind of a key thing that we've come to see from Arsenal. They load the box with big bodies, be it Kai Havertz or Mikel Moreno here, getting onto that looping cross, getting up and heading the ball past the goalkeeper. That method of cutting inside and then attacking that back post is almost the blueprint of Arteta's side from last season. We've got another example, this time Kai Havertz versus Dynamo Zagreb, but this from the left wing. Martinelli receiving wide, checking inside, driving into the centre of the pitch, and then once again clipping across on his stronger right foot to the back post to allow Havertz to get up and head the ball back across goal into the back of the net. That's something that Arsenal are getting good at. So I think for the kind of method of chance creation and what we're going to look for Arsenal, that's going to be a key component. So which player is better at getting on the end of Bukayo Saka and Martinelli crossing the ball into those positions? So I think first and foremost, let's look at the Slovenian international. A player that could very much have played in the NBA. Yes, read about that. Played basketball to a pretty high level. So in terms of that, he's got the natural prowess, the jump ability, and aerial ability to do that. But take a look at the statistics. 8 of his 27 league goals at Leipzig have come with his head. He's converted 28.6% of his chances with his head. If I see a number that's above 10% with his head, I'm impressed. So 28.6% is truly incredible. 8 out of his 28 headed shots have resulted in goals. We got a few examples of that. First up, this one against Augsburg. Leipzig getting into the final third, playing the ball to David Raum on the overlap. We want to focus on Benjamin Sesko's movement. Not only has he got a great leap, but he makes double movements. This is a key thing for centre forwards. Ian Wright constantly talks about making 2 runs. One to deceive the defender, one to score the goal. And we see that in this goal. David Raum setting himself for the cross, Sesko making the move across the defender before spinning onto the backside of the defender, getting himself up and heading it into the back of the goal. Just notice how loopy that cross was from David Raum. Similar to how Arsenal crossed the ball inverted. Of course, I think there'll be some more normal crosses like we saw with David Raum with the return of Ben White. But moving to another example, focusing on that leap. This goal against Kazakhstan. What I want you to focus on is how high Benjamin Sesko jumps here. The ball gets swung into the box. Once again, it's very loopy. It allows Sesko to position himself and compete with the goalkeeper. Again, he gets up above the goalkeeper's hand to head the ball into the back of the net. Benjamin Sesko is well suited to play this role for Arsenal. But what about Viktor Gyokeres? Well, I think first and foremost, if we're looking at long balls, Viktor Gyokeres is really good at competing in those situations. We saw how well he did against Saliba and Gabriel in the Champions League. He gave them a really good battle and game. So in terms of those balls, Viktor Gyokeres does tick the box for Arteta. He can be used from either William Saliba, or probably more relevant is someone like David Raya, who found a really good relationship with Kai Havertz, hitting him long, and then Havertz winning the knockdown. That's something that Gyokeres could do to both the 8s around him. But in terms of the thing we're really focusing on, chance creation. That's the thing we're focusing on right now. So let's take the ball from the left-hand side. Let's take Martinelli cutting inside, and then crossing to the back post. Is it a strength of Viktor Gyokeres to put that chance away? So we're looking at the statistics. 2 out of the 68 goals that Viktor Gyokeres has scored from Sporting Lisbon has been with his head. 2 out of 68. That's not a big proportion. But also when we're looking at his headed shots in the Portuguese league, he scored 2 goals from 41 headed shots. That's a conversion rate of 4.9%. If we go back to the statistics we mentioned before, Gyokeres versus Benjamin Sesko. Conversion rate in the penalty area for Sesko, 28.6%. For Viktor Gyokeres, 4.9%. So for Arsenal's style of play, in really simplistic fashion, Benjamin Sesko suits them far better when talking about scoring goals. But I think we can see the difference of the 2 players in these situations by this goal from Viktor Gyokeres. Instead of the leap that we saw with Benjamin Sesko against Augsburg and Kazakhstan, it's more about little refined movements for Viktor Gyokeres. Slipping the defender, moving into space, barely getting off the ground and heading the ball in. So I think that is the difference in a sense of Gyokeres doesn't really have the leap of Sesko. But also in terms of the accuracy, we saw these two missed chances against RB Leipzig. Once again, Gyokeres on the back post. The ball getting crossed into the box, a very similar inverted cross that we previously spoke about, but getting in the direction all wrong, and the keeper saving it. Taking a look at this second example, once again, this time an inverted cross from Quenda to the back post, Viktor Gyokeres not hitting the target. It's evident that Benjamin Sesko is much better in the air in the penalty area than Viktor Gyokeres. So that is a big tick for the Slovenian international. So let's move on to point number 2, which striker suits the Arsenal system better. Well, I think looking at their pressing, as I mentioned previously, both players work exceptionally hard off the ball and are threats on the counter-attack, in the channels, and long balls up to them. But I think the big thing when looking at these two centre forwards in terms of profile, you'd say Viktor Gyokeres is better suited for the fluid nature of what Arsenal want. So when we look at the likes of Kai Havertz playing as the number 9 for Arteta's side, let's just throw Thomas Partey back into the mix. What I like about Kai Havertz in this shape and system is he's so fluid in his movement. At times you'll see him spinning in behind the defence to find a through ball in behind from one of the wingers. Other times we'll actually see him on the flank, maybe overlapping the winger, allowing Ødegaard and Declan Rice to become the strikers. What I like about Kai Havertz is that fluidity as well, dropping off the line and truly overloading the opposition's shape. It's a big part of the kind of Guardiolan football that Arteta plays. He wants an overload in these central areas. He wants to dominate the ball, and that's something that Kai Havertz did. So in terms of the two number 9s, how do you see these two guys? Let's get rid of Thomas Partey again, throw Declan Rice to defensive midfield, Kai Havertz back to left central midfield. So throwing in Benjamin Sesko, imagine him like the Erling Haaland. Manchester City were ultra fluid before they signed the Norwegian giant. The interchange was incredible. You had David Silva, you had Bernardo Silva, you had Kevin De Bruyne, you had Phil Foden, you had a whole host of players playing false nine and really rotating positions. But then when they signed Erling Haaland, they basically went to very much Haaland playing as a centre forward and the rest of the team rotating and dominating the possession. The big thing with Benjamin Sesko is that Arsenal become even more reliant on the 2-8s to be the playmakers in the final third. This means Ødegaard needs to have a better season in terms of looking for those balls into the channel, but similar to Kai Havertz. Of course, Havertz keeps his game quite simple when moving into the final third. He's arguably a player that moves off the ball to get on the end of maybe a Ødegaard kind of pass in that area to then cut the ball across for someone like a Benjamin Sesko. But there'll be more kind of reliance on them creating chances versus when Kai Havertz plays as that number 9. But if we throw in Viktor Gyokeres, he is far better suited for this fluid role. He's a player that I love on the wing. When he's in these wide areas, he arguably operates as a winger. He's very, very good on the ball, not only in creating chances on the outside, but also driving inside and looking for those through ball situations. He's a player that is deceptively good in possession and can operate in that zone, which would allow Arsenal to be a little bit more fluid, which could mean Martinelli becomes more of a goal scorer in certain moves, or if Arsenal buy another left winger, let's see Rodrigo, could play a similar role in similar positions. But Gyokeres is much better in these areas. He's creating 1.83 chances per 90. That is some of the best of any centre forward in Europe's top 5 leagues. If we compare that to Benjamin Sesko at Leipzig, he's at 0.7 chances created per 90. So Gyokeres would suit the fluidity more. And I think that finesse and that power on those wide areas would make Arsenal a difficult unit to take. And also maybe when you're playing a lower block, simply getting the ball out wide to Viktor Gyokeres to cause some carnage on the left wing like he likes to do, and then finish high into the roof of the net, could be a way to break a low block. Or alternatively, let's say the positions have been very, very fluid in a move and Gyokeres has dribbled to a certain area, ball's been maybe moved back out to the right-hand side. Having a player like Gyokeres attacking the back post, as we mentioned with his movement in that area, could be a really good way for Arsenal to score. So I think in terms of tactical fit, Gyokeres suits what Arsenal were, but Benjamin Sesko maybe suits what Arsenal want to become. If we're taking that kind of Manchester City model of a 9, playing as a number 9, that's where they're going to get a lot of good work. So let's take a look at a few examples of Viktor Gyokeres in these wide areas. He is truly devastating as a nominal left winger. We pick up the play against Benfica with Sporting having a throw-in. The ball simply thrown to Gyokeres in the channel. From this position, you're thinking, Benfica are pretty well defended, Gyokeres is isolated, we're all right. But not only has Gyokeres got the power to hold off the defender behind him, but also he's got got the explosive nature to go on the outside, check across the defender and fire a great ball across the box for once again Sporting to take a 1-goal lead over their big rivals. And moving further to another example, this time Gyokeres starting in a central position, then running the channel, once again picking the ball up on the left wing, but having the ability to draw the defender in, explode on the outside, and simply cut the ball back for another goal for Sporting Club de Portugal. But we've looked at examples in Portugal. Can he do it in England? Well, we've got an example from his time at Coventry City against Huddersfield Town, once again being an outlet on the counter-attack. Coventry with a long ball up the pitch. Not only does Viktor Gyokeres spot the flight of the ball, he brings it down really well, but I love this little turn, breaking on the outside. The touch is fantastic, comes back on the inside, then the outside again, gets his head up and drills it to the back post for Coventry to score a really good goal. I love the ability of Gyokeres in these wide areas, and for me an advantage over Benjamin Sesko. But Benjamin Sesko is less refined than Viktor Gyokeres, and that's something we'd expect given the age. Viktor Gyokeres has lived a lifetime, Benjamin Sesko is the new kid on the block. And as much as he needs to work on his dribbling to have a similar impact to Gyokeres in these areas, the potential is there. Take this example against Wolfsburg. Benjamin Sesko running the channels in a 4-4-2 structure, receiving the ball out wide, getting his head up and finding a pender with a really good ball on the outside of his foot that the Belgium striker really should score. But there's definitely something there to be worked with Benjamin Sesko. He's got the vision to spot that pass, but maybe needs a little bit more work on its carrying. And one final bit on the system, let's talk low blocks. Because Viktor Gyokeres has spent a lot of his time at Sporting Club de Portugal being able to run into the channels, being able to isolate defenders 1v1 and then exploit them. But I think the big thing with Viktor Gyokeres from these situations when teams are defending super deep, of course, we mentioned previously, he's not the greatest with his head when crosses come into the box, but where he'd absolutely flourish in this kind of system and shape and structure is actually that little movement in the penalty area. Gyokeres is a really, really good player at kind of receiving to feet, then moving the ball, shifting it left to right, or opening himself up with the dribble, then smashing it into the back of the net. He's a player that I arguably would say is good at busting those low blocks in the penalty area with fine touches and finishing off moves, and the player that does enjoy finishing off cutbacks. On the flip side there, Benjamin Sesko has scored a lot of goals with his head. So as a player that, again, when teams defend in a low block and Arsenal need to cross the ball, is a player that absolutely excels. On top of that, Benjamin Sesko has got real ability from range. You've seen some of his goals, scored an absolute cracker in the Bundesliga from around 35 yards, where he simply just smashed it into the back of the net. This is something that will be good against low blocks, which is a counterpoint to Sesko suiting the system over Viktor Gyokeres. Moving on to our next point, which striker is better suited to play as a lone forward? Arsenal's shape and structure requires the 9 to not only hold the back line, but bully both centre-backs. Let's start with Benjamin Sesko. He's probably been better for Leipzig when he's played with a strike partner. His best footballs come when he's played up against a centre-forward with a partner in Lewis Openda. Arsenal could adapt their shape. They could change maybe to more of a 3-5-2 structure in possession, that being Lewis Skelly advancing even higher as an advanced inverted wing-back, Rice holding in the 6th position, Ødegaard dropping a bit deeper, creating a kind of different tactical structure with Kai Havertz as the nominal number 9 next to Sesko. This would help, this would work, but given the control that Arteta likes, he's more than likely going to have to play 9 by himself. So that is an area where you'd probably say Viktor Gyokeres is better suited. Not only having dominated the English leagues before, he was directly involved in 31 goals for Coventry City in his last full season in the Championship, but he's done it for Sporting Club de Portugal and been the top goal scorer in Europe. He's very well suited in terms of pinning centre-backs, running the channel, really being a nuisance in that zone. He's very, very active off the ball. And when you look at that kind of move from Portugal, yes, we've seen some strikers fail in terms of the likes of Darwin Núñez, maybe Goncalo Ramos to PSG. Gyokeres is the best out of the bunch by a country mile. He's a true goal scorer. He's a true complete player, as we mentioned before. He's got a really wide skill set in terms of being that number 9. So I don't think he's going to be another expensive flop from the Portuguese league. Viktor Gyokeres has also dominated Europe with his centre-forward play. The only duo that's really stopped him has been William Saliba and Gabriel. And Viktor Gyokeres still rolled Saliba and managed to hit the bar with this chance. So he's a player I think could be well suited playing as Arsenal's solo number 9. But that's not saying that Benjamin Sesko could not adapt to play that role, or alternatively said previously, changing Arsenal's shape slightly to get the best out of someone like Benjamin Sesko. And our final consideration is sticking with a plan or going for a player in his prime. Get into the comments below, which one do you want Arsenal to do? Starting with Viktor Gyokeres. Obvious, this guy is in his prime. He's one of the best goal scorers in the world of football. Since joining Sporting Club de Portugal, he's scored more goals than any other player. That's with and without penalties. And quite frankly, he plays in a system that suits him in a league that arguably he is better than. Think the likes of Erling Haaland for Borussia Dortmund. He was bullying defenders and scoring goals for fun. But Viktor Gyokeres scoring 1.5 goals per 90 at Sporting is a ludicrous return. So signing Viktor Gyokeres, you're getting a player in his absolute prime. But I agree with a lot of voices in the industry that Benjamin Sesko could be the best striker on the planet if he's developed in the right way. He's got the leap, the power, the speed, the pace, the finishing, the composure, the ability to create a goal out of nothing. He has everything. And I think the thing for Arsenal is, are they patient again? They've done really well building a young squad that's aging together, that's going to hit its prime at the same time. That truly will allow them to win the Premier League and the Champions League in the same system if they continue with this idea. But also with Benjamin Sesko, if for example he does move to Arsenal, there could be less pressure given the fact that Mikel Arteta loves playing Kai Havertz as Arsenal's number 9. That means that there could be a period of adaptation for Sesko where arguably he could start off the bench, replacing Havertz late in games, and again using his pace, potentially when Arsenal have got a lead, to stretch the opposition, get in behind and score more goals and kill off games. Or alternatively, if Arsenal, let's say they're chasing a game, we could see the likes of Kai Havertz and Benjamin Sesko playing in that area together. This will allow him to adapt to the league. Jurgen Klopp was fantastic at doing this at Liverpool. He allowed signings to have 6 months to adapt to their teammates, the new conditions, and it truly allowed them to evolve. So whereas Viktor Gyokeres would come in and hit the ground running, Benjamin Sesko would be a longer term project, where in fact we probably see a lot more of Kai Havertz as Arsenal number 9 next season, allowing Sesko to adapt to the league. And taking that pressure off and allowing him to work on his game could truly turn him into a superstar. When we think about Mikel Arteta, he has improved some of the best players on the planet. The likes of Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka all improved their assist numbers and goal numbers. But take a look at Declan Rice's numbers under Arteta. They have truly become elite. That's one part of his game that he didn't have at West Ham, that Mikel Arteta has grown into him. But of course, when we're looking at someone like Kai Havertz, a striker that struggled at Chelsea, has now become a pretty decent centre forward. Think about what Arteta could do with the raw ingredients of Benjamin Sesko. So I think the big thing here is, what do Arsenal do? How do they evolve this team? Do they want to win now, or do they want to win really well in a few years? And I think when you see some fans getting a bit frustrated with Arsenal not winning the Champions League or Premier League last season, I think you've got to look at the bigger project. Arsenal play incredible football. They've got a young squad that have got a lot of homegrown talent, and they're a nice team to watch. There's a lot of positives there. So I think for me, when looking at who fits the model in terms of what we spoke about today, I think the only thing that Benjamin Sesko probably doesn't do right now is suit playing as a lone centre forward. I think everything else in terms of finishing off the chances, in terms of the idea of Arsenal's age of squad right now, but also his true potential and ability, it makes a lot of sense. So if I was Mikel Arteta, I would sign Benjamin Sesko. But get into the comments below, guys. Which centre forward would you buy? Viktor Gyokeres or Benjamin Sesko? I've been Statman Dave on Transfer News Live. If you're new around here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. But anyway, see you later.